Sure.
I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for March 27th, 2018 at 6:31 p.m. Hello, everyone, and I tried to find a really fun holiday for today, but it's National Cleaning Week. So that's the best that I could do for you, which for me was exciting because instead of being a daily thing, now I have an excuse to do it just once a year. My children can do it the rest of the time.
Yeah, right.
The second meeting of the month, we're trying to make it a work session, but it's actually ended up being more of a regular meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and just use our regular agenda format. So tonight on our consent agenda is the Senior Center Building Rental Policy. Then we're going to have the regular agenda, and I'm going to change things up a bit, and we're going to start with the Civic Center project update, followed by the audit presentation and recommendation for fiscal year 2017-2018. Then we're going to adjourn into the Urban Renewal Agency meeting for the approval of the February 13th, 2018 Urban Renewal Agency minutes and the audit presentation and recommendation for fiscal year 2017-2018. Then we're going to come back into a regular session and discuss the proposed changes to Coffee with a Counselor. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Counselor Milch?
Present.
Counselor Neese? Present. Counselor Tracy?
Present.
Counselor Reisner?
Present.
Counselor McMahon?
Here.
Counselor Mercero?
Here.
Mayor Stemple?
Here, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So, are there any agenda additions or corrections?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to let you know that the staff report for the audit is on your dais. That was supposed to go in your council packet. It's pretty much a cookie-cutter staff report where we're doing the presentation and then asking you to accept it. There's no resolution on there. We will post this to the website as additional information, but I wanted to make sure you had one for the city's audit and the urban renewal audit.
All right. The only other thing is moving the Civic Center project update first so that our project manager doesn't have to sit here through the entire audit presentation. So we'll start with business from the audience.
Mayor Stemple, may I be allowed to speak?
Yes, please. Pull up the microphone. Okay.
Linda Neese, City Council. There has been numerous things going around about me, and I'd like to address them. I have been bullied, manipulated, and emotionally challenged. I have backed myself into a situation where people are trying to control me. I am not resigning as city councilman. I am standing firm. I will not continue to be bullied. It has been brought up about my business license. That has been resolved. I have paid the fines. I have paid everything that needs to be done to make me current with the city. I'm currently working with the Secretary of State to resolve 2017 and 2018. I again was bullied and harassed on a business license for 2018, and I did it out of emotion. And I'm sorry I did that. But with the city, or with the Secretary of State, we are going to dissolve that business. It'll take 45 days, but it will happen. I'm also getting a letter for 2017 where there was no business and no activity. So I just wanted to share this with all of you. I am tired of the bullying. I'm tired of the harassment. And Mr. Osborne, I am sorry, but you just keep after me. You and Mr. Mathis. You have tried to discredit me. You have humiliated me. You have embarrassed me. You have done everything possible. And the reason I'm staying is because somewhere it has to stop. If you do this to me, who else on this council are you going to go after and go and find fault with again? I'm done. So you can get out here and tell everybody everything. Now, if you enjoy embarrassing me, but you know what? God says he, without sin, cast the first stone. Maybe you should look that up and follow it. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other yellow cards?
We have one from Bill Osborne.
Bill Osborne, 7160 Monte Verde, and apparently I'm a bully now because I've asked Linda questions and held her accountable to things like laws, like the business license issue she just mentioned, where she claimed she'd done business in 2016 because it was apparent she did it for the Secretary of State. She had no license through the city of Gladstone, nor through the state of Oregon. She was conducting business illegally against the law. And yes, I pointed that out after it was brought to my attention from Patrick Mathis looking into other issues. Taking care of that subject, from what I understand from the city of Gladstone, means that she's claimed in 2016 she did business. 2017 and 18 she hasn't, even though she licensed through the state of Oregon right after being made aware that the information on her conducting business illegally was going to become public. This was done not as an intimidation or as a bully, but a courtesy. I was acting as a go-between between her and the gentleman who is looking to launch a recall initiative, something that our city doesn't need another one of. And because of this, because I extended a courtesy and let Linda know what was happening before it hit the public, I guess I'm lumped in as some bully. I've never supported the recall. I didn't think it was a good idea. It's going to happen, most likely. I don't see anything stopping it. I've been able to hold it off a little bit because, well, I took Linda at her word, like many of us have. She contacted me about resigning. I sent you guys all a copy of this that I put together, text messages, that she sent to me saying she was going to resign. Apparently one more manipulation of the people. She stated that her investigation in the voter fraud, that she was found innocent. That was not true. And one of the big issues that the people have, and the reason this is moving more towards a recall now, is because where you guys have wanted to work together, and I commend you for that, there have been actions that have happened, things that aren't legal, violations of the very code which you seven set and you guys modify, and you guys are the ones who decide what the penalties are and the enforcement. There's been violations of these, and this is something that needs to be looked into. Aside from an illegal action, we'll call it an unlawful action because it's a violation of a code, not a criminal offense. There's been complaints made, and I hope that the council instructs staff to look into this. There needs to be an investigation. This is unethical behavior done on the part of one of your own. And when you all stand side by side, it reflects this body as a whole. And how can we trust you to make laws and codes if you yourselves don't think you need to follow them? And as far as doing business in 2016 and not since, and the requirements that make you have to get a business license aren't that you're successful in business. It's that you have the intent and you're attempting to. Whether there was any business in that time or not, I assume if you guys do an investigation, you'll look into that. But again, just to take Councilor Neese at her word, given some of the other issues, I don't think is responsible to the residents of Gladstone. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Do we have another card?
No.
Okay, thank you. So the first item is the consent agenda, which is the senior center building rental policy. Do we have any discussion? Yes.
Yeah. My recollection when we had a work session and talked about this, that there was discussion of an option to be presented to people who did not have the required insurance, that by paying an additional fee, it might be possible for the city to purchase a rider for them for that one event. I didn't see language like that in here, and I wondered if it was ever pursued or if it was ever considered as an option for folks. Thank you, Carl.
Good evening, everybody. So, at the council's direction, I looked into this and consulted Alicia Johnson with WCS Insurance. And with her, we worked over this for a couple weeks. Municipalities, as rule, cannot buy insurance and provide insurance on behalf of a citizen. So there was just no way to incorporate that into, no matter how you worded it, no matter how you did it, there was no way to make that happen. So we started exploring other options, and Alicia and I came up with this option that I presented to you, and I think this is the best solution, and still minimizes risk to the city, financially speaking.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any other questions for Cullen? Would someone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to accept the policy and agreement for the new senior center activity.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Councilor Mercero and seconded by Councilor McMahon. Do we have any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item is regular agenda, Civic Center project update.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I am going to have our project manager, Kim Knox from SOJ, come up, Public Works Director Jim Wynot, and Police Chief Jeff Jolly, and I'll sit over here. We're part of the selection committee. What you're getting in front of you is a brief memo that Kim put together today. You recall from our email communications yesterday, we interviewed respondents for the new City Hall and the Police Department, and it was a very good day yesterday. We're happy to bring you good news, and so what I'm going to do is have Kim go over this information as you read it, and we'll brief you on where we are in the process.
Great. Thanks, Jackie. Kim Knox with Shields Oblitz Johnson, and I'm very pleased to be in front of you, Mayor and Council members, on what I would consider, based on my experience working with a bunch of selection processes, that you hit a very sweet spot in the market right now. The city issued a request for proposals back on February 5th, and we had a mandatory pre-proposal meeting. I believe you've been updated as we've been going along about the numbers and how many folks have been participating in that process. The reason I say you've hit a sweet spot is, as you probably know, the market is very, very busy right now, and you had what I would consider a pretty tremendous response. We had 6 different contractors show up at the mandatory pre-proposal meeting. Of those, 5 of them put together design-build proposal teams and submitted proposals on your project. Those companies are listed here. The proposals came in on March 5th. Following that, the selection committee, made up of Jackie, Chief Jolly, Jim, and I, or actually they were the selection committee, I basically facilitated the process, came up with a short list of 3 companies, 3 teams to interview, and those teams were based, that evaluation was based on qualifications, approach, and then some team organization risk management evaluation that the group did of the various folks. But the primary, at this point in a progressive design build process, what we're doing is picking a team for you based on their qualifications and their approach. We don't have costs, we don't have any of that stuff. We do have budgets that we ask them to submit in their proposals, and the primary reason for doing that was so that we have a starting point for discussion, as well as an indicator of how are we doing with the city's budget projection and moving forward. Again, these are not anything set in stone. It's just a more of a piece of information that we receive from them. So based on the proposals received, the selection committee decided to proceed with interviews that were conducted yesterday with what I will say about the 5 firms, all very, very qualified, very well-respected companies in the Portland region. So the 3 that were interviewed were PNC Construction with Scott Edwards Architects, Turner Construction with Mackenzie, and Kirby Nagelhout Construction with Henneberry Eddy Architects. And the results of that discussion and interviews, they all went very well, very enthusiastic, energetic teams, very, very interested in working with City of Gladstone on the project. So those interviews were conducted yesterday, a long day together, and staff and your selection committee, that was also supplemented by John Lewis from Oregon City Public Works Director, came to a conclusion, a recommendation of PNC Construction's team being ranked the highest of the three entities interviewed. So
PNC Construction, they and Scott Edwards have experience doing the Oregon City Library project, the City of Canby Police Department, City of Canby Civic Center, and Rockwood facility, among others. Very, very much engaged into the community, and are very highly qualified to do this project. So we can't release scores yet because we're going through a period of where we're telling you who the apparent winner is. Again, it's not based on any low bid qualifications. But what we would like to do is to have a consensus from the council to go ahead and proceed with talking to them about a contract that would come back to you for consideration, and we would have them come and do a short introduction and presentation to the council in May to do that. We have to go through having our city attorney review all of the background and qualifications to make sure what they said they've done, they have done from a legal perspective. And then we also have to be able to post an appeal period. And so if you guys allow us to continue through this process, we are right on time like we said we were going to be. May 8th was the date that we were going to come to council to talk about an actual contract with them, and then we would also talk about the next phase of the project. Or if you have any other questions that we can answer for you right now, you have us here for that.
I was so happy to see the types of firms that submitted proposals. These are great, great teams. So thank you for going through all of that. That would have been a tough call because they're all really, really good.
And the feedback we're getting on the progressive design is that Gladstone's going cutting edge, because this is smart contract architect where you get them together and you design it and it streamlines the process. You get the community engaged in it, and fiscally we're being more responsible with how we're spending our funds. And so we're very excited. We were thrilled with the enthusiasm even from the Oregon City Public Works Director that Gladstone's got some projects going forward. And so we feel very good about the next step in this process.
So could we get a consent? Does anyone have any questions first? There's not a whole lot of information they can give us at this point, but...
Right.
Do we get gold shovels at some point here in the next
Yeah,
month?
gold.
Actually, they're just down the hall. Where you got?
In fact, after the council awards the bid, we would like to do a groundbreaking ceremony on site, late May, early June. I think it's a wonderful accomplishment for this city council and this staff, and this is what we have been striving for the past 2 years, and we are very, very close to making it happen. Also, either in late April, early May, Kathy will be coming with me to council to talk about the actual financing piece. We had a work session on that. We're doing our analysis on borrowing from the Urban Renewal District for that. And so the timing of this is all coming together very nicely.
Okay, so I guess I would like to get a consensus to give them approval to continue negotiations with PNC. Councillor Milch?
Yes.
Councillor Neese?
Yes.
Councillor Tracy?
Yes.
Councillor Reisner?
Sounds good.
McMahon?
Yes.
McMahon? Councillor Mercero?
Yes.
And a yes for me. So please, move
Yay.
forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So the next heavy lift is the audit presentation.
So we have Tanya for for Marina and Company, we have Kathy Brucker, who's our interim finance director, and I also want to acknowledge Drew, Ann, Mindy, Neil, and I don't know if Brian made it here, our audit committee. Drusilla, sorry. I said Drew, I should have said Drusilla, so. I thought I said Ann, too.
Oh, did she? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
thought
So
we-
anyway,
we thought she said
they are
and.
here this evening. Just so everybody here knows that we did have an audit committee meeting last week. It was video taped and it's on our website, and some of the members of the council have talked about it. So we are going to have a very healthy, transparent conversation about our audit. So Tanya, do you want to start?
Excuse me, Jack. Could we have them stand so we can see who they are?
Oh, from the audit committee?
Yeah, from the
So
audit committee. I mean, I
Mindy,
know Mindy,
Ann,
but that'd
Maybe
be
they
great.
don't want
Sue?
to.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies,
Okay.
for
Yeah,
Thank you.
very
helping
much.
us out last week. Great questions.
All right.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, my name is Tanya Moffett, and I am the partner with Marina and Company, the city's auditors, for the June 30, 2017 financial statement audit. I have in front of you a copy of the city's financial statements and the AUC 265 letter and the AUC 260 letter, which I'll explain exactly what those are in just a minute. I'm happy to report that we have completed the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2017. It's a little bit later than normal, but it's an unmodified or a clean opinion on the financial statements. And so that's the highest level of an opinion that we can give on a financial statement. So that means that we do not believe that the financial statements have any material misstatements in them. Our opinion is limited to the basic financial statements and the supplementary information and some of the required supplementary information. We applied limited procedures to the management discussion and analysis, the schedule of funding progress, the schedule of proportionate share of net pension liabilities, and the schedule of contributions, and do not express an opinion or assurance on that information. The introductory section of the report has also not been audited by us, and accordingly we express no opinion on that. So just a little bit of housekeeping. There are some things in the financial statements that we don't actually opine on, and so basically the ones that have the numbers, with the exception of the other post-employment benefits and the net pension liability and the schedule of contributions, those are the ones that we're not opining on in the financial statements. So one of the things I would like to discuss is that there were no restrictions placed on our audit. So when we asked for information, we received it, albeit in a little bit longer manner than we had anticipated. We had hoped to have this finished by December 31st. But still, nonetheless, we did get the information that we needed to be able to complete the audit. There were no disagreements with management, so I'm happy to report that all of the numbers in the financial statements, there's accounting pronouncements that support them. There's no unusual transactions that the city entered into during the fiscal year ending June 30, 2017 that are in the financial statements. I would like to draw your attention to a few numbers in the financial statements. So we have some estimates in the financial statements. So for example, depreciation. We don't know exactly how long a building is going to last or a vehicle is going to last. So depreciation is an estimate. That's not an actual number. We don't know exactly how much that is. It's all based off of accounting jargon and the ways that accountants, that we apply those principles. So the city is applying those in an appropriate manner. Compensated absences is another item in the financial statements that is an estimate. So it's based on current wages. So a lot of times what happens is an individual doesn't take all their vacation right away. That accrues over time, and they don't necessarily take it at the same pay rate. So the compensated absences is on the books based off of what their current pay rate is. That could actually be a little bit larger of a liability, because if they get a salary increase or a COLA increase, obviously that number will be a little bit higher than that, but it's based off of what their pay was as of June 30, 2017. So that's an estimate. And then the largest estimate in the city's financial statements is the net pension liability. And so I'd like to draw your attention to that, and it's on page 20. Well, I'm actually sorry, that's not the right page number. Apologize. It's on page 11 of the financial statement. And this is in the city's financial statements. It's the one that was on the top, not the urban renewal. So just to make sure everybody's on the right page, it says City of Gladstone up at the top and not City of Gladstone urban renewal. If you look down towards the middle of the page, there's liabilities, and then there's a current liabilities section, and then there's a non-current liabilities section. Under the non-current liabilities, there is a net pension liability, and as you can see, that number is $5,602,675. That is a large number, but what I want you to understand is that that's an estimate. That is what the actuaries come up with. There's a calculation based on age of individuals, the people that are in the pool for Oregon State PERS. But what I want to draw your attention to is on page 60 of the financial statement. And this is the schedule of contributions. Page 60. So Oregon PERS does a calculation every 2 years and tells the city what the liability is, what the amount that the city is going to have to pay for current retirees and for people that have already retired and for current employees. And so you can see right here under Schedule of Contributions, there's statutory required contributions of $354,011, and then there's contributions in relation to the statutory required contributions, and it's the same amount. And then we don't have anything in the fourth column over for contributions, excess, or deficiencies. So what that means is that the city will hypothetically be able to pay that pension liability. So the amount that the city has to pay for current employees and former employees for PERS, the liability, this is the amount that they're told that they have to pay each year. And so that theoretically will take care of that liability in the future. So I want you to understand that, yes, that's a large number on the statement of net position, but it should be covered because the city is making their required contributions. That's adjusted every 2 years, what that amount is and what that percentage rate is going to be. And so I just want to point that out, because as long as they're paying this, then they will be able to cover that, what the actuaries say that net pension liability is.
So we're on track.
Yes.
We're not going to get hit with
Correct.
a huge, which was recently an issue on social media.
Yeah.
So we're fine.
Yes. So that's why I want to point this out, is that that number looks really big. It's an estimate. We don't know exactly what that liability is, because we don't know exactly how long these employees that are in Tier 1, which is the highest level, and then Tier 2, OPSERP, we don't know exactly how long those employees are going to be collecting on those benefits. We don't know how many employees there necessarily will be, and it's an estimate. We don't know exactly. But making this required contribution covers that net pension liability. Cool. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, because it's probably one of the biggest questions that I get right now, because this is a newer pronouncement. This is a new number that's just went on the books for the city over the last 3 years. So, and that was an accounting change. That was a government accounting change. It's all entities throughout the United States. It's not just an Oregon thing, but it's an estimate. So I want everybody to understand that because you're making your required contributions, you will cover that liability.
Thank you.
Yes.
May I ask, on page 59, just to the left of page 60, you show the proportionate share of the future liability. It's $5.6 million this year. 2 years ago, it actually has parentheses around it. Why is it then, when it was so much lower then, the statutorily required contributions were much higher? Were we kind of getting caught up on maybe missed contributions in 14 and 15? I know you probably didn't go back that far with,
It was just accounted for differently, and part of that is that the entire state of Oregon was shown as a net pension asset the first year that this pronouncement was implemented, and that's just based off the actuary's way. So it was shown as an asset. Do I believe that at June 30, 2015, that the city actually had a pension asset sitting there? No, I do not. It's just the way it's calculated. It's an estimate. And so, unfortunately, it just depends on what interest rate is used. Basically, it's called a rate of return, and so currently it's at 7.5, but if you change that even just a little bit, it makes a huge difference. So I can show you a little bit on page, give me 1 second. If you look at page 47, and we're going back to the notes to the financial statements, there's item I. It's called the sensitivity of the city's proportionate share of the net pension liability to changes in the discount rate. So you can see that the discount rate currently, it's the middle number in this little table here that says the discount rate of 7.5. If that is decreased by 1%, meaning that they're not basically earning as much money on that principal that's sitting there that's going to fund this, then the city's liability goes up to $9 million. But if the interest rate increases by 1% to 8.5, then the city's liability decreases to $2.7 million. And so there's a lot of moving parts in here, and it's all an estimate. And so I don't believe that the state of Oregon's PERS was overfunded at June 30, 2015, and now it's underfunded by, for just the city's proportionate share by 5.6. I don't believe that. And then Oregon PERS sets what those contribution rates are. So I honestly can't tell you why there's such a dramatic difference between 2015 and 2017.
I'm not aware of it either.
So, thank you. Any other questions specifically on this estimate? I just like to point that out because, cash in bank is cash in bank. I can go to the bank and I can ask the bank how much money the city has in the bank. That's a number, that's a hard number. I can audit that. These estimates are estimates. There's accounting pronouncements around them that to make sure that all entities apply them the same way, and the city is following those pronouncements and following what is statutorily required for them. So, we did note that there were some uncorrected misstatements, but they were immaterial to the financial statements. And this has to do with past unbilled water revenue. And what that means is it's a timing difference. So the city bills a certain date for different water revenue, and there was a little bit of a timing difference, and so there was a small amount for that. There was also a credit liability to agree the utility billing support, and then accounts payable, and so to correct as prepaid and accounts payable. So there were a few small past journal entries that we did note when we were doing the audit. The total effect was $43,000. So. There were some material misstatements to the financial statements that had to be corrected to make the financial statements in proper presentation. And what those were is there were some water and sewer receivables that the utility billing support did not match what the general ledger had. And so our belief is that had we not came in and audited the financial statements, that those numbers would have been materially misstated. So there's different levels of reportable findings when we do an audit. So we have, there's two reportable findings. There's significant deficiencies, which mean that they're kind of minor findings that wouldn't materially change the financial statements and change the reader's opinion of the financial statements. And then we have material misstatements, which unfortunately that's what this is that we believe that had we not came in and done the audit and found these errors, that the financial statements would have been incorrect. So we have a material misstatement of the financial statements. And so I just want to bring that to your attention that we did have some adjusting journal entries, and then also to correct sewer charges that were incorrectly charged to the water fund. So those were the two adjustments, or there's three adjustments really, that we found during the audit that we have to report to you. We believe that management's response to the finding, which you can find, there's a piece of paper that's in your financial statements, and it's one page. Yep, that one that you have right there. So this is the AUC 265 report. So this is the findings report. It's a one page. Yep. Everybody seeing that? It's in the front of the city's financial statement. So what our findings said is that controls were not in place to ensure accounts were reconciled at year-end. Audit adjustments to the financial statements were found that, in our judgment, may not have been detected except through our auditing procedures. The existence of such material adjustments indicates that the system of internal controls did not detect and prevent such errors. Management should address inherent limitations in the internal control system and modify their oversight functions accordingly. And then if you flip it over to the second page, management's response and corrective action plan. The City of Gladstone will be implementing quarterly reviews and year-end closing procedures to ensure all necessary reconciliations of accounts by qualified personnel. This will be accomplished with the proper implementation of GASB statements as applicable to the city's annual financial statement. So our opinion is that that is an appropriate response for these basically adjustments that we found when we were doing the audit. Thank you. Then I would like to also have you turn to page 74. So it's the very last page in the financial statement, so that's the easiest way to do it. So this is the Independent Auditor's Report. Again, it's page 74. This is the Independent Auditor's Report on compliance and on internal control over financial reporting on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with Oregon state regulations. Page 60.
Yeah.
So this report is the state of Oregon legislature has said that they want Oregon municipal auditors. So the only people that can audit municipalities in the state of Oregon are licensed municipal auditors. So we go through some extra training. We also are required to take some specific classes through the state to be able to qualify to still audit municipalities, because governments are just different. You know, we have different rules for governments. And so the Oregon State Legislature has said, you know what, we have some specific things that we want Oregon municipal auditors to look for. So this is an Oregon-specific report. You won't see this in any other state. And so the Oregon State Legislature has said they want us to look at things like ORS 279, it's public purchasing laws. So a great example is what was just brought before you today for doing the project. What we do is we go and look to make sure that if the city is going out for any projects, that they've properly advertised, that they've put it in the paper appropriately, because the Oregon State Legislature has very specific rules on how many days before the close of the bid, so that everybody has an equal opportunity to be able to come and bid on these projects. We also look to ensure that there is a selection committee, that the city is selecting the best proposal or has some sort of scoring mechanism to determine who they're going to select. And then once the city makes their selection, we also look to make sure that the city is listed as an insuree on that person's insurance. So that's one of the things that the Oregon State Legislature asked us to look at. So it's called ORS 279. We look at that. They also have us look to make sure that the public funds are in like an FDIC insured bank account. So that's $250,000. So anything that's above that, that it's in a bank that's fully collateralized by the state of Oregon, that they're on the collateralization list. So these are the things that the state has specifically asked us to look at. They want us to look at highway funds, gas tax funds, make sure that they're being spent appropriately. So there's some specific things that the city has asked us to look at, or the state has asked us to look at. So we had a few non-compliance items that we came to our attention. So the city was out of compliance with Oregon budget law with the following exceptions. Prior year's actual resources and requirements on the city's budget document do not match the amount reported in the prior year's audited financial statement. The approved budget resolution for the general fund does not match the budget document and is not appropriated by department as required by Oregon State. And then we get to letter C. Expenditures in the following funds exceeded appropriations for the year end June 30, 2017. And there's a lot of them here, unfortunately. Yeah. We have the general fund, general government of $176,000. The general fund to police department of $54,000. The general fund transfers out of $82,000. The police and communications fund personnel services, $10,000. State revenue sharing fund transfers out $52,000. The civic building capital fund materials and services, $33,000. The water fund transfers out of $30,000, and the sewer fund transfers out of $56,000. So one of the reasons that there are so many budget violations is that the city's appropriations were at individual levels. So for example, personnel services, materials and services, debt services, the state has been pushing entities to start doing their budgets more on a department level or a activity level. So instead of being for police communications personnel services, it'd just be police communications. And so it'd be a total amount for that. And so part of it is that your budget resolution that the city council approved was very restrictive. And so part of the reason that there are these budget violations is that the resolution was so restrictive. So, you know, if you go and look at the individual funds, for the most part, they had other funds in there that were available or had been approved for budgeting purposes. They were just in a different line item for materials and services and not personnel services. And then the last item was the civic building capital fund had a deficit fund, a budgetary ending fund balance of $46. So that's common to happen. It's typically a timing difference. That's a small amount. I'm not that worried about that. So I know that's a lot to digest, and these are non-compliance items. These are state of Oregon non-compliance items.
I have a question.
Yes.
The item 1C you talked about and the numbers, the total comes to $367,489. Now, is that a total overspent by all the funds, or is there other funds that are underspent? So what is the total?
So, Councilor Mercero, that's a great question. So, in total, that is the amount that was overspent based off of the budget appropriations. A lot of other funds and other areas within the funds are underspent. So, for example, which fund should I pick? Okay, so the general fund on page 53, thank you.
We had total expenditures under $1 million
So, general fund's probably not the best example just because they're appropriated by department too, but, okay, so the general fund, if you look at the very bottom right-hand corner of page 53, the general fund underspent their budget by $1,939,000. So just in the general fund, they had more appropriations than over those expenditures. So, let's see if I can find another good example.
So with that itself, it said that the city did not overspend. They just overspent in some.
In specific line items per the resolution that they were appropriated on. Transfers in. I'm trying to find one that has.
So, Councilor Mercero, your point is true. In our complete budget last year, we underspent by $1.9 million, but we overspent within certain detailed line items in certain departments. But the net overall is $1.9 million that we did not spend in our budget.
Actually more than that, but that was just the general
That was
fund.
the general fund that you were just
Yeah.
alluding to
But
there.
That doesn't make it less concerning,
That's correct.
because what oversight do we have? What budget was taken from in order to compensate for this overspending?
So a good example, let's look at page 70 of the financial statement. So let's look at the Civic Building Capital Fund. And the reason I'm specifically looking at the Civic Building Capital Fund is because, as you can see, revenues, we thought that for budget purposes, they thought that there was going to be interest of $80,000, but then when you come down to expenditures, we have materials and services here of $33,000. So the variance there is a negative $33,000. That's where one of those budget violations is coming from. So if you look at the next line down, though, it's capital outlay. So the city underspent on capital outlay by $10,518,536. So had the Civic Building Capital Fund been appropriated at the activity level, then the total under expenditure would have been the $10,405,000. But because it's so restrictive, the budget was so restrictive, that's why you have that budget violation of $33,000, even though there was an underspent of like $10.5 million.
Only because we didn't build the buildings.
Correct. But another example, if you want to look at the general fund by department, if we go to page 67, so as you can see, general administration overspent by $176,000. But municipal court, they overspent for personnel services, but they underspent on materials and services. And so in total, they were under, and so they have a positive of $1,000. So the general fund for the year ended June 30, 2017 was done correctly, and it was by department. So you only see the general administration of the 176. You don't see the municipal court of the negative 529,000. In total, in the general fund, just by departments, they have a positive budget of $1,400,000 down at the very bottom. So yes, there are some areas that were underspent. There are also areas that were overspent, and so those are the areas that we're bringing to your attention.
So I guess my question again was, whose budget was robbed in order to pay for these over expenditures? Or do we even know? Or
Well, it's possible to look at page 67 and see which, if you look at the variance in the column on the right, the ones that are positive are budgets which did not spend up to the amount that had been budgeted for the year.
Right.
I would not characterize it as having robbed anybody. It may be that something they planned to do one year might have been pushed to another fiscal year and may still happen, and the money that remains that was unspent is carried over to the following fiscal year. So it's not like that was the only opportunity they will have had to spend that money. that the 1.4 million shown on that page will be a carry forward to the current budget year and available as a source of funds.
But will it be allocated correctly to the right budget?
Because we start all over at the next
Yeah.
biennial.
So my understanding is the mechanics of the appropriations have been corrected, correct? Is that what we're talking about here too? Because we've got the line item appropriations. Are we correcting that, or?
There's going to be oversight now, maybe?
So, one of the things that we noted, item B, is that the approved budget resolution for the general fund does not match the budget document and is not appropriated by department. So I can't state that the appropriations, the resolution that was approved by council for the biennium starting July 1st, 2017 through June 30, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, sorry, I'm trying to do the dates in my head correctly. So July 1st, 2017 through June 30, 2019, they're still, for the general fund, it was not done correctly because it was done at a total personnel services, materials and services, capital outlay. That makes it almost impossible for individual departments, so for example, police and fire, to be able to know how much money is really in their individual budget because the appropriations is not correct. And then when you come back to the other funds, like for example, like the Civic Building Capital Fund, that's appropriated at materials and services and capital outlay, not at that total amount. So you could see that it's going to make the budget for this biennium that you're currently in a lot more difficult to manage and watch. But I believe that city has personnel in place now that they are aware of what is going on, to be watching that budget and then bringing what is called supplemental budgets or budget resolutions. So that's how we change in the state of Oregon for Oregon budget law. When you do your original appropriations, you can do a supplemental budget or a budget transfer to make the corrections. So the city is aware of what level it's at so that they can be watching those and make changes appropriately if they need be for those individual funds.
So back on June 13th, 2017, the City Council adopted a supplemental budget resolution, and that was about 3 weeks before the end of the fiscal year. Had we had a little better crystal ball and able to forecast what some of the expenditures were going to be, theoretically we could have adopted a supplemental resolution that would have basically zeroed out anything that was spending close to budget, and we would have had no overages at all in individual categories, and we would have finished the year, with the same net. I don't want to use the word profit, but being ahead. Yes, the same position. But it's because the state is a stickler about individual appropriations being spent at the budgeted level rather than the bottom line figure. So if my wife says, I want to have a garden party, I want to spend $50 on roses and $100 on a dress, and she goes out and spends $75 on roses, but she says, but I found a dress for $50 at Ross. She's gone over on the roses, and if I get all upset about that, I forget the fact that she's underspent by $25 what her total budget was. And that's kind of the situation we're in here. The state gets upset if you go over in an individual category, but the city's happy if we come out, in a good position at the end of the year. And we just have to do a little better job of doing that supplemental budget resolution, because the numbers are going to change throughout the year. Nobody can tell 2 years ahead what you're going to spend in any category and what's going to change and where things are going to be needed.
Councilor, but I disagree in that, I agree with your analogy, but if and I have to, again, I'll bring up, apologize to Colin and Lauren, we rated their, and I'll use RAID, their budgets last June for tune of, what was it? Yeah, you know, well, that was all, you know, a bunch, but like $70,000.
But had they spent that $70,000, we still would have been in a position of having spent far less than we allocated in the budget.
But why should they cut short their budget and end up paying $90,000 more than we should? This is just what we approved last June. That doesn't include this other $500,000 that they just brought up on page 75 or 2-101.
Oh, you're referring to the fact that, when we
resolution.
did the resolution,
Yeah.
we subtracted from budgeted amounts in some departments in order to increase budgeted amounts
Yeah.
in other
Right.
departments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what she just went over, we didn't approve. That just happened to keep us out of trouble with the state. Those transfers on like say on page 75 is on top of what we approved back in June for a tune of over $1 million. I mean, granted, the bottom line is, you know, we're still in the black. But why should we, you know, as you were saying, you know, borrow from one fund to give to another when, you know, the one fund, i.e., the library, could, you know, I mean, as you know, can use a lot more money for the kids. We end up, my understanding, rated the fire department several $1,000s to cover this for 486,000 overture, and the parks. That's what we were told at the budget, or that the audit committee on Wednesday. So you're right, the bottom line wasn't pierced or, you know, or out of whack, per se. It's how we spent the money, like you said, you know, in your personal analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not fair, you know, for one department to get shorted when they're anticipating X amount of dollars because somebody isn't watching the books.
Well, what it tells me is that perhaps when we get close to the end of a year and we see that there are certain large categories in a department that are most likely not going to be spent that year because they really aren't planning to do the project or whatever it is that justified that a level of budget at the beginning, that those should be the areas from which we borrow funds and not take it away from areas which may have fully intended to utilize those funds for their programming in that year. So taking $35,000 away from the library rather than taking it away from the parks capital outlay fund, which ended the year with a, you know, $278,000 difference between the what they were budgeted and what they actually expended. You know, it had a bigger impact on a program which perhaps could have used the funds. So I think, you know, what I said about kind of having a crystal ball to how you do it, you also do it with sensitivity to the programs that the city needs, and because the budgeting is really sort of a goal setting. It's a placing a monetary value on things that are important to what the city offers to the community. And I agree with you. We need to keep those things in balance and make sure that we give attention to both, not just trying to make the numbers add up.
So, and I agree, but I don't think we should wait till almost the end of the fiscal year.
No.
We should be watching, you know, every month and throughout the year, making sure that the expenditures are happening as
well.
I
agree,
have
and I think
planned.
I'll have
And you're
something-
right. That's why we have a contingency
Yeah.
fund. But I mean, our contingency fund of 400,000 went out the window real quick because we ended up being needing $1 million, which is extremely historic. I mean, the $500,000.
Terrifying.
So the city, so one thing to note is this is a point in time. This is as of June 30, 2017. So this is in the past, and actually it's quite a bit in the past now, unfortunately. The city has come up with a solution based off of these non-compliance findings. So
we will be monitoring this on a regular basis, as far as updating the council as far as the situation in the budget to actuals and what you're looking at. We plan on doing that on a quarterly basis. Of course, now we've got a catch-up period, so you will have to give us a little bit of time here. We are 9 months into this fiscal year now. So by June of this year, we will have a good handle on exactly where the city is sitting at the end of the first year of the biennium. If there are any adjustments that are necessary to be done at that time, we'll bring them to you with good explanation as to why. And then going forward after that, at least on a quarterly basis. It's very common for either budget transfers, that was a budget resolution transfer that was done before, for those to be done on a quarterly or semi-annually or at the very end of the fiscal year, and then often supplemental budget adjustments at that time too. So towards the end of the fiscal year, that's where you rebalance everything. And the reason the fire department had come in $600,000 plus under budget was due to staffing shortages, things like that. So money is saved there, and that is what can then be used to offset in other areas that may have gone over. But regardless, you're doing a budget anywhere from 18 months to 2 years out. So as Councilman Milch said, it is very much it's a moving target in a way. And a good estimate, we watch it closely, and fortunately Oregon budget law, if you jump through all the right hoops, they're there to take care of any issues.
I also want to say that, when we first got this draft audit, we brought it to your attention the areas of concern, and we do recognize that there's been poor financial management in the past. I think we have competent staff on board now. We have great department heads. We have new software conversions, so Tyler Technology can give our department heads real-time information at their modules instead of waiting 2 months to get a report to understand how much money they still have in their budget. So we're able to monitor the real-time spending better, to give timely reports to the city council and also to the public. So yeah, I'm embarrassed. I will say that, and I understand that, and the department heads are going to do whatever they can to support me in the finance department to correct this. But I also know that we do try to be very prudent with how we spend our funds, and the fire department is saving up for capital needs, and it is rolled over into the next budget. But I also want to make clear that I am concerned because we are tied to a very restrictive biennial budget, and there will be some adjustments that still need to be made in the current fiscal year that we're working on, specifically the technology line item that I know Mindy asked questions about. Why did Encode go over so much, $82,000? We're flushing those out to try to understand how we got to that point. And so I take it very serious, and I want you to know the department heads do too, and we'll do what we need to do to try to fix the errors.
I am so sorry that you've inherited this, and you too, and you're not going anywhere anytime soon, right? Please don't. We're going to tape you to your chair.
The biggest thing is it's a point in time. Okay, so we got a snapshot in time. This doesn't look good. Let's go forward. It's a point in time. I get that. I think that the city is moving forward and has an appropriate response for the corrective action for it. I know it's not the news that this is probably one of my worst fears, coming before council and saying you have a material weakness and you have some non-compliance issues. It's a clean audit in the sense that you can count on the numbers. The numbers are correct. We have an unmodified opinion, so that's great. It's a point in time.
So quarterly reviews, guaranteed. And when things get out of whack, council's going to be notified.
Yes, and quite honestly, this fiber project that we're almost complete with is so that Public Works and the Senior Center are connected to us here and can get that real-time information. That's the investment that we're trying to make in our infrastructure, because we see what happens when you don't have current financial information.
You have lots of notes, and I see lots of little sticky notes in yours as well. Do you guys have questions?
I don't have questions.
Okay.
I think I would agree with you were making a statement earlier, Mayor, that, I mean, we want to make sure the mechanics are correct. We want to make sure we can track stuff. I feel confident in the audit. I did read through it and made highlights and looked at numbers and did the stuff that I feel like I need to do to get some understanding. But I also believe that we have to make sure that as we're looking at numbers going from one line to the next, we need to track everything. And I'm not saying this because you know, it's not, I wasn't here for the resolution. I don't know what the conversations were during that time, but I think we need to definitely pay more attention. I think we've received a wake-up call, and so, you know, I believe City Administrator Betts is looking at this closely. I believe the department heads are too. I believe that you all, when we have done some of these line item budget, moving money, fungibility, money to here and there, that they were involved in that conversation. I'm sure. Is that not correct, City Administrator Betts?
Probably not.
Well, I don't.
Because I mean that's because that to me is I'm assuming we were trying to make some corrective actions with the budget.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
it's
you know,
very difficult when you are former staff that's no longer here, that's kind of responsible. You know, you never want to blame it on that. Just like you say, you weren't here when this happened.
well, you know, but I would be direct and blame it on him.
But
Sorry,
for
but
it. Just do it.
you break it, you bought it. That's how I
Right,
look at
right.
things.
I understand.
So
Duly noted.
no, but what I'm hoping, I guess what I'm asking and what I'm hoping is that as we go forward, we're utilizing the expertise of all of our directors, all of our department heads, our folks who are now working with us as, you know, the budget director, finance director, and our accountants and our auditors to really watch this closely, because I believe the mayor has a good point here. We need to make sure we are very transparent in this process.
Yes, and that's why I'm putting you on notice that, you know, with having this restricted biennial budget now, Kathy and I are working through some concerns that we may bring to your attention in regards to being over on our computer and technology line item. But that's the kind of communication I want to have with you. I want you to know there are issues, and then this is how we're going to fix them. But yes, that's absolutely correct. It's the public's money. We are responsible for that.
Yes, we are, and they remind us of it almost every day.
Yes.
Beautifully so. I believe that's good.
Neil, you've got lots of notes.
Oh, I got a chance to go through them on Wednesday, and
In fact, is there anybody from the audit committee that would like to say anything?
I would just like to say that I think we all felt really, this is Mindy Garland, that we all felt really secure in the information that we got, that everybody was really honest about it. Don't get me wrong, we hated these numbers. We were all, you know, a little blood red about it. But the bottom line is, I don't believe that any of these three people hid anything from us at any time. I know that Jackie was heartbroken that she had to bring it to light, and I think that she did a really good job in bringing it to us, and there was truly nothing hidden. So with that, you can feel really confident about that. Are we still angry about having $1 million overspent in one single year? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Say it like you mean it, Mindy.
May I say something too? I listened to the audio of your meeting twice, so that's 6 hours I invested in this.
Oh my gosh.
And first of all, I want to thank the committee. You know, we only established an audit committee a little over a year ago, and had it been full of recently retired or still active government auditors, the meeting might have gone a lot faster, the questions might have gone a lot smoother. But what we had was citizens, neighbors, like the way we do most of our business in this town. And we had people that had asked very good questions and got straight answers, and that's the kind of process you want to have going on when you have citizens representing their city in this kind of a process. And I appreciated also the very sensitive way that you dealt with accounting for accounting, I shouldn't use that word, but discussing the possible reasons for the errors that took place, some of which were probably human, some of which had to do with, what you described as a perfect storm of developing a new budget system, getting new software and converting numbers. If I tried to, if I just tried to take what's in my checkbook register and move it to another one, I'd probably make a few errors. And to do something on this magnitude, you're going to see some mistakes. So I thought it was a good process. I would echo what Mindy said about the honesty and straightforwardness, because that's what you want in government accounting. So I'm appreciative of that.
Well, I want you to know that I am super gun shy. This was terrifying. This was such a slap in the face, thinking that all of this stuff was under control, and then to find out that all of these things were being done without the city council being looped in at all. That's terrifying, since we're here managing the budget and managing the city. It's not Jackie's fault, it's not your fault, it's just the circumstances. And the question that I have is, right now as we sit here, very few of us have access to the information, our budget information. There's been hands tied, and I want to discuss that. I don't think that any of us should have our hands tied on whether we could look at information or not look at information. We have a counselor that was censored and not allowed to look at this information, and I honestly believe of all of us, he is the most detail-driven, and if he would have been allowed to look at this information a year ago or a year and a half ago, I don't think we would be where we are today. And I don't know if his hands were tied by design or by circumstance, I don't know, but we as city councilors and the mayor should have access to this information if we have questions. So I think that we need to lift that censure and be allowed to look at our financial information.
We have access to it now, do we not?
Mm-hmm. Neil still does not.
Well, we provide financial information to the public each month in all of our packets, bank statements, check register, all of that.
I've been following the budget for the last 9 months or so that I've been on council.
Okay, I want to make it clear that we have access to that information. All of us. Not just some of us, not just 6 of us.
It goes in Neil's packet every month.
So then why are we $1 million off? I mean, you look at where checks go, but we're getting in the weeds, don't forget. At least that's what you claim.
It was
when I start asking questions.
I'm not sure there was $1 million on the table to begin.
It was entirely tied to the level of appropriation and how the budget
Right,
was
this is line item appropriation that's been overspent, and then other monies have been taken out of other funds, correct?
Correct.
So they've been found fundable as they've been transferred, correct?
Yeah. The 500,000 was at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
This overage that's listed in here did not have the same type of transfer done.
Okay.
If it had been, it would have been just fine. So Jackie and I can discuss as far as or elaborating, expanding the monthly reporting process.
Sure.
To be able to give you more line item information.
That's what you want is detail, because they're not.
Right.
Yep.
Yes, and absolutely we can work on that. We can.
I think it's appropriate at this point.
For the audit committee, they asked for a copy of the vendors list, and we provided that. And we're also cleaning up what we give to you at each month, because there's been, and you wanted to explain that.
Well, I'd like to hold off on that until we get to the next council meeting, if that's all right.
Well,
We're
we
trying
can go
to
into
get
more
of a consistency of, and it can be expanded easily. It's just depending, councils like, various levels of information sometimes.
I find kind of I'm hesitant to I mean, Councilor Reisner, I understand your attention to detail. I don't know that we should start having council members become financial directors and try to play both roles. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one on the council that feels that way, but I don't know that that's a good way for us to conduct business. I thought we had an audit oversight committee. I thought we had folks looking at this. Maybe I'm misinformed, but I don't know that we should be looking at, police radios and batteries and things of that nature from a council perspective, because I don't believe that's really our role. Somebody can disagree or agree with me, or.
Well, again, I guess I'd have to agree with you 100%, but then I'd have to ask Councilor Reisner or Mayor Stemple, what information are you not getting that you would like to see now?
I looked at the information that you got over the last 2 years, and we're $1 million off.
You keep saying $1 million, and I'm not sure I'm hearing those numbers or seeing those numbers. And I have a question about what you would have seen, Councilor Reisner. What would you have seen other than possibly the transfers? Because these are transfers.
Right. So this is the transfer that we did last June.
Okay.
$541,000.
$500.
$541,000.
Right. Okay. And then you add another $497,489 that's on that list. Come up with $1 million plus.
And they've accounted for the $400,000 and change, correct? So you're saying that $500,000 is not accounted for?
No, it's
okay.
It's accounted for, but what I'm saying is we rated Peter to pay Paul.
What you're saying is we've taken it out of one account and,
and transferred. Yeah, the bottom line is still in the black.
Right.
No, I understand that.
So
to Councilor McMahon's point, what detail did we miss, or did you miss in not being able to have access to the information?
You get a registry that says X amount of dollars goes to this, that, or the other,
right.
And I've been chastised for a year or more and asking questions as to, why did we spend $48,000 to Locker Inc., let's say. And I haven't even a clue as to who Locker Inc. is.
So he's talking about a vendor and what?
Yeah, I understand that, and it goes back to the line item budget, and we could all sit here and look at every key that's made and every light bulb that's bought or what have you, but I don't believe that's necessarily the role of the council.
Well, someone isn't doing it because it didn't work.
We had somebody, apparently, we had
someone that you trusted.
Folks who weren't doing it, but again, if that's...
You many times said you trusted.
And you voted for that gentleman as well.
Well, no, since then, you many times said that, we hire professionals, let them do their job, I trust what they do.
Yes, I do. I stand by that, Mark, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Until proven otherwise, yes.
Well, I think the proof is right here, but...
That gentleman no longer works for us.
I think we need to form another committee.
And I think we've gotten off track a little bit.
Well, we have.
Maybe we
need to watch this closer, obviously, because this was a shock, and whatever we have to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And if it means that we have access to information, then I think that needs to happen.
And I'm hearing that the mechanisms are in place, am I not?
That's
to at least watch this and to monitor it. So I'm satisfied with that.
The only comment I'd like to make is that I believe it's very important how we manage it, okay? There are certain people to work with, okay? That is the city administrator. You don't go around the city administrator. You ask city administrator the questions, and she will research and give you the answers. Not to go into every damn department and browbeat the department heads to see what you can do about improving the operation.
Are you accusing me of doing that?
If
you have, or if you are, I want the proof, because I haven't. Every time I ask something, it goes to Miss Betts.
Okay.
Do you know different?
I know you have done things different in the past.
Do
and
you
I
know
wouldn't be
different?
I wouldn't be surprised if you're not doing it now.
Well, I guess we are
Okay,
getting
well,
along right
we are
well, aren't
definitely
we?
getting off
Call
track.
back to order if you want.
Yeah, let's loop it on back. So, yes, we just want to make sure that we have the information timely, accurate, so that we can catch these things before it snowballs into $1 million. We are accountable to the people.
So I think the action that needs to take place for the city's budget is for you to just accept the annual audit, which is why you have this staff report here in front of you this evening.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make that motion that we recommend approval of the City of Gladstone Annual Financial Report for the financial year ending June 30th, 2017.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councilor McMahon, seconded by Councilors Tracy and Reisner. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion's passed. All right, so the next item on our agenda is that we are going to adjourn into the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion that we adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
Motion to adjourn into the Urban Renewal Agency was made by Councilor Neese and seconded by Councilor McMahon. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in the Urban Renewal Agency. The first item is approval of February 13th, 2018 Urban Renewal Agency minutes. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes of February 13th, 2018.
I second that.
Motion was made by Councilor McMahon, seconded by Councilor Mercero. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Approval of the minutes. Next is the audit presentation recommendation for fiscal year 2017-2018. Staff, please.
Hey, Tanya, thank you.
Principal officials of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency, I am happy to report and bring to you the June 30, 2017 financial statements for the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency. And I'm happy to report that this is a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of a financial statement opinion that we can give on the financial statements. One thing to note that on the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency, we are not opining on the introductory section, but the additional information, the financial section, and the notes to the basic financial statements, we are opining on that. So there's less things that we're not opining on in the Urban Renewal Agency. I'm also happy to report that if you turn to page 18, which is the last page in the financial statements, we come back to the independent auditor's report on compliance and on internal controls over financial reporting on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with Oregon state regulations. I'm happy to report that if you look at this report, there is no non-compliance findings for the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency, as well as if you flip it over to the next page, the internal control report, we do not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so we have no AUC 265 letter, which was that letter that we had that had the internal control deficiency for the city. We do not have that for the Urban Renewal Agency. So, the Urban Renewal Agency's financial statements, it's a clean opinion, and it is an unmodified opinion for the Urban Renewal Agency's financial statements. All right, does anyone have any questions on the Urban Renewal Agency?
No questions. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, Mayor, I'd like to recommend that we approve the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilor McMahon, seconded by Councilor Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you very much. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and reconvene to regular agenda?
Yes, I would, Mayor.
Motion was made by Councilor McMahon.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilor Neese. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're going to reconvene into the regular agenda, and the only item was proposed changes to coffee with a counselor.
Thank you so much
Thank you, Tanya.
for
Kathy.
Thank you very much.
your candidness back last
Done.
week and today.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I'd just like to let you know that I work for you. I do not work for city staff, and I work for the citizens. So you each have one of my cards. If you have questions throughout the year, I'm happy to answer them or go over things. We do not charge for occasional questions. So, you know, I'm here for you.
The next time will be more pleasant.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Actually thought this
Thank
was
you very much.
Thank you.
You're a sick individual.
I am.
All right, so coffee with a counselor changes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Start it off.
Okay. So back last September, Councilor Neese and I were given the duty of looking at coffee with the counselor and how, you know, how we might maybe change or keep it the same, or even just kibosh it all together. And so we sat down several different times over the last 6 months or so and came up with some different ideas. And one that we think would be a good change is one, changing the location from the library, so we're not competing with the teenagers down in that north room, and to the senior center, and then also moving it away from Monday night, where we have a lot of other meetings, and to Wednesday night, the Wednesday night part, and then also in the morning from 10 to 9:30. Also talking with some of you, it's been suggested that, and also maybe come up with a theme for, rather than just be citizen-driven. When this was thought of back, Councilor Kim Sickman was his idea, which I think it was a great idea, and the rest of the council agreed, because obviously we've been doing it for 3 years or so now, and was to give people an opportunity to meet with us rather than sitting there in front of us and everybody, which can be frightening. And I know that some meetings have been just one or two people, and others have been overflowing. So I personally think it's been a success, and would like to continue doing it. So, but with, I think, some changes, as anything needs to happen. I think maybe having a theme also that possibly, which didn't make it in here, because I just want to kind of throw it out, because I didn't want to make it formal, is maybe instead of twice a month, once in the morning, once in the evening, maybe once a month, or once every couple of months, because it appears that the attendees seem to be the same people over and over, and which I think is great. I mean, they're participating, wanting to chat with us, and it gives us another avenue to talk with our citizens. So with that, like I say, we did make the recommendation, which was option 5, about changing the day of the week and the time date, and maybe making a predetermined discussion item or topic, but that wouldn't preclude any other items, or topics coming up. So,
and we
Councilor Neese was, I mean, we any other thoughts? I mean, I don't want to dominate.
No, I think you're doing fine. We talked about the possibility of changing the location, and the reason being is, to try to draw other people from around different areas of the community to come and make it easier for them. And yeah, the library has been great, and we greatly appreciate it, and but and we are competing sometimes with young children down there on the computer and doing homework, and some wanting to play games, and so that's one of the consensus was, let's look at a different location to draw in different different people from the community, give them an opportunity to come. And we looked at the senior center, and we thought that the senior center might be a good place for us to start.
Also, I just looked at a note that I had made. Former Councilor Sickman, being that he envisioned this and came up with it, took it on as one of his projects. So he coordinated with the scheduling and letting people know, who was on board, what was, that. And I, when he left, I just took it over because, well, I did. I mean, nobody said yes and nobody said no. But my suggestion was to maybe have someone from staff, because of the uniqueness of needing to communicate with everybody, and worried about, at least I am,
getting the information out.
Well, one, getting the information out, but also
Quorum.
the quorum thing.
Yeah.
Would like to see if we could have somebody from staff do the coordinating of it. It doesn't take really any time. It's not a time constraint at all.
If we're going to do it less often, it wouldn't be so bad.
Right, and I've only been scheduling out a couple of months because we've been talking about this discussion for several months. But I know he had scheduled out like 6 months at a time, like January through June, and then July through December, and then whatever changes might have had to be made if something came up. So with that, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are. And thank you.
Colin, is the senior center okay? Because that would be taking away space that could be rented.
Thank you for asking, but I did talk with after
I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it.
Okay.
It's on a day that Councilor Reisner did approach me and talk to me about this possibility and what days might work, and I let him know. And Wednesday is a great day.
Okay.
Yeah, especially in the morning time. That's going to bring more people midweek, and everybody can stick around for a nice healthy lunch afterwards. And
so we're still talking about
you have cottage
morning
cheese.
instead
we
of
have plenty of cottage cheese and
fruit.
soup and fruit. So it's
and
a great,
salad bars.
great.
So you're thinking that Wednesday mornings would work out better?
Wednesday mornings, and if you wanted to do Wednesday nights too, that is an open night.
It is for now, but I don't want.
No.
One of them needs to lock up.
Yes, the nighttime it would require a council member.
That's fine.
To just simply lock the doors. You don't need a key.
We don't need a key.
No,
Okay.
You don't need a key. Yeah, I can show you how to do it without any keys necessary.
I just don't want to take away the possibility of rented space.
No, and I could assist with coordinating. I don't want to have myself or my staff completely take it over, but we can definitely assist you with that. That's not an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the senior center makes more sense.
Mayor, a question about the timing. The way we're doing it now, I think it was originally, theoretically, the meetings would be the day before either a city council meeting or a work session. It happens occasionally that if the first of the month is on a Tuesday, that the second Monday of the month is 6 days after the council meeting, because it's 6 days after the second Tuesday of the month. But most of the time, the two were pretty close together. Now, if we switch to Wednesdays, depending on what week of the month, it'll either be the day after a city council meeting, or it'll be, a week or so ahead of one.
It should be in that middle week, in between.
Well, I like the idea of perhaps shifting to kind of a focused theme or a topic. Let's get ideas from the community about, how we're, what we're doing for young people, or what we're doing for seniors or something. And then it's not so much tied to an agenda item that the council is going to be considering specifically. What you're doing is trying to hear from the community and hear from people. Yeah. But to the degree that people want to talk about something that is coming up on the agenda, maybe people would rather, do it in closer proximity to a meeting date. The other issue, I know people have mentioned that sometimes the evening meeting now if it's a specific week of the month, it coincides with a regularly scheduled evening meeting of one of our
Parks or
committees,
traffic.
boards
No,
or
it's tra-
committees.
it's
Is it traffic?
Yeah.
Traffic.
And so the
Right.
sensitivity to that, I think, is important too when we schedule. I don't know if there's a group that regularly meets on Wednesday nights.
No.
Okay.
That's why we had,
That's why we looked at
switched
that.
it to a Wednesday,
Okay,
because generally the city doesn't have a Wednesday evening meeting. I mean, we did this last week with the audit, because, I mean, they only, only meet once a year.
The
as
school
a
board
general-
does, and
but the s-
some of us,
right.
are
So
there.
could we
yeah.
do 1 month, Wednesday in the evening, and the next month, Wednesday in the morning, and then,
Yeah, we could do that. There'd be nothing wrong with that.
because
Just
honestly,
rotating.
yeah.
Whatever works for you guys.
And the ones that I go to, none of the discussion is really tied to anything that's on the agenda. It's kind of a free-for-all. We've talked about killing moles, and we've talked about all kinds of weird stuff, so it just seems to be whatever's on people's minds,
Mhm.
not agenda-driven.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, I think that would work.
And then have it at the senior center.
Mhm.
And we'll do the 6:30 in the evening for the evening one, and then is it 10 in the morning for the
10,
Well- yes.
10 in the morning
I
for the
would do
morning
10.
one?
Well, we were going for 9:30, but I can't remember
9:30?
why. Colin was... Yeah, you had suggested 9:30, but I can't remember why. You said 10
Oh, lunchtime.
Right, 'cause
Rotation with lunchtime.
that way...
Oh, so do it a little bit earlier, so.
Right.
Okay.
Allowing people to mill around and then also stick around afterward,
Mhm.
without coming into the lunch hour and having to feel like they're being rushed out.
I think that sounds
Okay.
like a plan. I don't know, how do you think? Does that sound okay, Tom? Pat?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, yeah.
But it's still set for a given hour.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
We
it at
start at
4
a
hours.
certain time and in fact end at a certain time.
Yeah.
Keeping things dragging on is not
No.
No.
in my cards.
And then come up with some ideas of what themes we want. Maybe one topics, parks. What would people like to see in the parks, or something that would maybe draw more people in.
Mhm.
I do
Still
agree.
allow the questions and answers
Yeah.
as part of it in the end, but really have it wrap around some topics.
Moving it from the library, I think, is a good thing, because it does disturb others. And I think that's a good thing.
So,
Having a subject to talk about, as recommended, would probably be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that could even be, instead of us making that suggestion, which we could do, maybe we ask the citizens
Yeah, that's fine.
what they would like to talk about.
But
And
have it know ahead of time so that we can advertise that the upcoming meeting is about
yeah,
trails or traffic, moles, killing moles, with this thing that explodes. No, that really was a discussion.
no, I
Yeah,
So, okay. Well, because of it being advertised already in the newsletter that we're committed for next month, the 9th and the 23rd, which we still don't have anybody signed up for those 2 nights.
Well, I'm sure we can
Yeah.
post it somewhere. All of the people that usually come are in this room. Well, most of them anyway.
So
Is
are you
that
saying
right?
you want to start next month
I
versus
think we
May?
should, yeah, I think let's start next month.
let's just get it going.
Yep.
Okay. So you want to do which Wednesday? So we're gonna.
Let's do the one in the middle, in between the two meetings.
So we're talking about the 18th,
Yeah, the 18th.
and then so the first one would be in the morning, and then May would be in the evening, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think does that work for you guys?
Mhm.
All right, does that work for you, Colin? All right. And that gives us a couple weeks to come up with a topic.
And we'll need to let the library people know that
She's standing right there.
Library people, we're not gonna have it in the library.
Their
We have our
services has
space
been
free.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've told the ladies that
And senior
Jen-
center people,
Yeah.
now it's where you are.
Okay, so April, was that 18th? Yeah.
18th
May 16th.
at 9:30, and then May 16th at 6:30.
Okay.
And then before then, you just need to let us know how to lock the door.
And I have a question. So for the next newsletter that'll be coming out probably after the 9th, we're going to include the date of the 16th of May. Is that correct? And it'll be at 9:30? Is that correct?
The May is 6:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
The April,
the April is the 9:30 a.m. The May 16th is 6:30 p.m.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
It just reciprocates every month then,
Yeah.
Right.
so it's on and off. Yep.
Yeah.
So we need people to sign up with Neil so that we can get those staffed. Any more discussion on the coffee with the counselor? Nope. No. All right, so next
Thank you.
is business carried forward. Do we have any more updates from Ms. Betts?
Nope, I
Nope.
have nothing further, thank you.
All right, is there anything that was brought up during business from the audience that we would like to discuss or direct staff to take action on? Oh, did you forget something?
No. It's not from the audience.
I take it that's a no? All right, and business from the council. Councilor Mercero.
Nothing for me, sir, ma'am.
Councilor McMahon.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Reisner.
Going through the vendor list, I was jotted down about going in-house with our email. I was curious as to how's that coming along.
Well, it's part of the issue that I raised during the audit that we're having with the technological line item. And it was brought to my attention last week by our IT contractor that he has completed the email exchange server transfer for the police department and the court, so they are on their private server now. He's now needing to purchase a domain and an exchange server for us to get our fire department and our volunteers on the email list, and it's going to cost approximately $12,000 to do that. So that's how it came to our attention when we started going through the technological line item, that we're running over on some expenses. So to answer your question, that's one of the things that Kathy and I are fleshing out today, and that's the honest update that I can give you, is that Robert needs to buy software to integrate that over. That's the piece he's waiting for me to say, yes, we have the money to go ahead and purchase that.
Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Councilor Tracy.
Had a meeting with North Clackamas County Water Commission last week. Got through draft language on a final IGA, so this is going to be an amended IGA. Big kudos to Director Wynot for helping steer some of the process and giving me the history. I think we came up with something that's going to be very favorable for us and recognize us as a coalition member. So
Thank you for
guys,
taking this on.
you guys will get the IGA. I think it's going to
Yeah,
City
city
Administrator
attorney
Betts.
has
Yeah,
it
city
now,
attorney.
and it'll come to council within the next couple of meetings for you guys to understand what Councilor Tracy and Public Works Director are recommending that we change in that IGA.
And what it reflects, I think, most important to us is that it gives us a partnership. We don't control the external forces on the river where we draw our water, and this gives us a coalition and a partnership, and I believe Director Wynot feels comfortable with it as well, that gives us some strength here. So I'm happy with what we crafted as language.
And we're at the table.
And we are at the table, and I think we have a good relationship at the table, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Councilor Neese?
I attended the school district meeting, and along with Councilor Milch, and it was very enlightening, and it was very impressive with what the kids are doing and what they have got planned and how they're all working together. And there was designs and drawings that the kids had done and put it up all over the wall, and it was just amazing the talent that some of these children have and the projects that they've taken on. And I can let you speak to more of it, but it was a great meeting, and I learned a lot by being there.
Councilor Milch?
I have enjoyed being liaison to the school board because there is so much of their meeting devoted to looking at art produced by students, hearing from teachers, hearing from students who are involved in programs that are meaningful to them. I joke, I think that, you know, if you just wanted to get through your agenda efficiently, that's the kind of stuff in some places you say, well, let's leave that off and just get to the meat of the matter. But they don't. They stick to that because that's who they serve, and it's impressive. There was a very good presentation there to us about the Student Threat Assessment and Management System, which is much more complicated, I think, in detail than some of us know of. You know, with the shootings that have been in the news and everything, sometimes you hear about threat assessment, and there's a lot of judgment sometimes on social media about what should be done or what isn't done or have they done enough. And what I learned really through a very good presentation was that it's about assessment. It's not always some kid who calls up and says, I'm going to bring a gun to school tomorrow. You know, it starts at trying to assess every act of potential violence or aggression that goes on. If some kids are playing, third graders are playing basketball, and one of them knocks the other one down and says, and gets up and says, I'm going to kill you, well, those are threatening words. But the assessment is probably going to, determine that that's not a real threat in the long term. But if a high schooler who's been bullied and, is getting more and more pressure says the same words, the assessment that goes along with determining whether that is a legitimate, a viable threat, is likely to come out with a little different results. And it's great that the counseling staff at the schools, the teachers, the administrators, the police department, people at the state level and county levels work together on this program. And it made me feel very confident in in the way the program has been developed and in the cooperative nature of the people that are working on it. Last month we had one of the representatives of the school board come to our meeting and shared with us, even before their own school board had heard the details, concerns about budget matters at the school board level. And that's why it kind of coincided with looking at our audit. Their situation as far as PERS and their projected contribution requirements is a lot different than ours, as it is for most school districts. It combined with some other factors like drops in enrollment and other things have put some real financial pressure on our school district, and you'll be hearing more about that. You want to look at the situation, what was reported to us tonight in our budget report. In many ways, as far as that aspect of it, the city's in a lot better position than our own school district or many of the other school districts across the state. You'll keep reading about that in the news. So that's what I have.
Well, for me, I've been working on sewage, which is so exciting, and it's ended up being 2 or 3 meetings a week trying to figure out the governance agreement with our sewer district. We have a meeting on Thursday of the elected officials that are a part of this group to try and come up with a reasonable solution that brings us all to the table. So that's kind of been absorbing a lot of my time. And then I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank you staff. You guys were handed a pretty crappy hand in a lot of ways, and the fact that you're sticking with it, you are sticking with it.
Yes.
And smiling right now.
We have 3
wonderful.
great projects coming up. Things
Yeah.
are going to get good. So.
Thank you so much. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor McMahon, seconded by Counselor Reisner. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:20 p.m.